It's happening, everyone. Serbia is getting absolutely rocked by a mammoth protest right now. Communist corruption is being exposed, called out, and unwanted by the people. President Aleksandar Vučić of Serbia is in the hot seat. His resignation is being called for, and, it just might be coming now. These protests started around 10 months ago in response to a disaster that occurred in November of last year. The so-called progressive government of Serbia has been ignoring the people, treating them terribly, making it clear that the banks of China and Russia are more important than them. Now we're witnessing the whole thing blow up. And we've got a lot to cover. There's a ton of clips and a lot of information I want to show you. It's all coming your way. You were watching how many people are in the streets. We'll get to what's happening there in just a moment. But first, let's look at how all of this got started. Just what happened to trigger students and good people into taking into the streets like this? I mean, what motivates people to make that kind of sacrifice? It all began in November when faulty work on a train station came collapsing down on 13 innocent people. Tragedy struck. The number of victims grew by a few more since then as well. And the Serbian government did absolutely nothing in response. They were frozen. They swept it all under the carpet in secrecy. Here's a brief look at what happened.
Well, there's been another collapse, folks. This time it is the roof canopy collapse from the facade of a train station in Novi Sad, Serbia. So you're looking at the scene here right after it happened, and just as the very first of the first responders were showing up on the scene. And here's a shot from the immediate aftermath, and it's just such a shock that there's 14 souls trapped underneath there, plus others that were injured. But you can see the whole thing just fell down instantly and all in one piece. So see where this lady's sitting here? See where all of these people were sitting? That's where many of the victims were. Some were on the benches, and you could see it in the security camera video. Here's the scene of the collapse just as the first responders were arriving. So a report had come out in the news. It says here that this geology engineer, Zoran Dajic, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, he worked on the project until March of 2023, and he says that works were indeed carried out on the rooftop. So there's a lot of back and forth finger pointing as to whether any of the reconstruction project had been doing work on the roof. Some people say there was work on the roof, some people say there wasn't. Now, he submitted reports, but this is what I'm concerned about the most here. It says right here, the detailed scope of the works to the end remained a secret, as the Ministry of Transport did not provide journalists with the reconstruction project, which was this was done by the Chinese consortium here, the company. Now, the Chinese did not want them to release any information to the public.
The secrecy and the neglect is at the heart of this protest. It all signals deception and greed. It tells everyone that they simply don't matter, that their own government will sell them out for money, even at the cost of their own lives. You see, the train station was part of a new deal between Serbia and China. It was a part of solidifying the Belt and Road Initiative that China wants so badly. Loans were made. President Aleksandar Vučić prostrated himself to the banks of China and Russia in order to receive the funds necessary to undertake the different operations that were needed. The $1.5 billion in revenue needed for the renovation of the Novi Sad Railway was funded by China's Exim Bank and the Russian government under the China CEEC Cooperation Framework. It was completed in the summer of 2024, hailed as a symbol of growing cooperation with China. Then disaster struck. The roof collapsed. In the end, 16 people paid the price with their lives. What did the government do in response to all of this? It's sad they did nothing. They hid the results. Nobody is permitted to see any details due to the Chinese Communist agenda. The Chinese consortium squashed it all. The communist government that is supposedly for the elevation of the people, it just brought them all down to a new low. Protests began. You can imagine what happened here. People were upset. But they were peaceful for 9 months. The calls by angry citizens and students were for government reform. They wanted Vucic to be accountable as well. This is all sane. This is pretty much what anybody would want in this situation. The people were calling for new elections to get Vucic replaced as well. Over time, he just simply refused to capitulate. He wore out his welcome. A functioning judiciary to resolve the issues was also in order. Nobody wants them swept under the carpet. And the students on the streets also wanted educational reforms. The students were the beating heart of the protests since it all began. But the bottom line is simple here. They're all tired of the deception. Vucic needs to open the books and shine light on the tragedy. What is so hard about this? The dilapidated universities that they have there, they need to be updated. There needs to be bureaucratic reform, and resources need to be upgraded in general. And if Vucic can't play ball, he needs to allow himself to get escorted right off the field. It's time for Serbia to enter the 21st century. Democracy should be the norm that gets accepted. Secrecy to protect government elites, especially those from China, those who would sacrifice people in order to protect profits. This is simply not acceptable. Who can blame everyone? We're not looking at the type of protests that we would see here in America. These are people who are genuinely in need. They are legitimate. Here in America, we're dealing with a different breed, completely not legitimate. Unfortunately for us, we get Black Lives Matter protesters. They come out and talk about police brutality, all while they brutalize the people around them. They take the lives of innocent people, all while the police save them from doing more damage to themselves and others around them. Or we get the Columbia University protesters, another breed of special. Columbia U prides itself on teaching students on how to protest. These students are the kind who think America is fascist, so they protest on behalf of the real fascists. They don't want to be oppressed, so they protest on behalf of the very people who would oppress them into oblivion. The students in Serbia and the good people have not been taught to protest by spoiled liberal elites who fill their minds with pseudo-history and political indoctrination. These students are fighting against actual injustice. President Vucic has genuinely covered up an atrocity. He sold out his people for money, and the people of Serbia are tired of the abuse. The students are stepping up. Now, over the course of time, the whole scene has gone from peaceful to increasingly violent. Earlier this year, President Vucic escalated the conflict and made everything worse. He introduced counter-protesters into the scene. He basically paid public servants to go out there and agitate the students, or he instructed factory workers and bust them in. According to the French press Le Monde, Vucic bussed in factory workers who were ordered to go there by their superiors, and most of them didn't even know what they were doing there in the first place. Imagine that, just being dropped off and then told, go out there, do your thing, and you don't even know what's going on. In an effort to stir things up, Vucic wanted to intimidate the students into walking away. And if that didn't work, the chances of physical damage would also increase just by the mere presence of people being there and interacting. This would give him a reason to go to the courts and get approval to bring in government forces. It was just a giant setup on his behalf. And you know, in the beginning, all Vucic had to do was uncover the real reasons why the structure at Novi Sad failed. Is it really that hard? Then maybe offer apologies and some type of recompense to the victims' families. This is just simple humanity. But he continually refused. He's like a junkyard dog guarding the lot for the CCP. They won't let him speak, so he chomps on whatever bone they give him, and he rushes back out to protect the yard. The people in the streets keep on growing and growing. They refuse to be silenced, refusing to back down to his neglect. Over time, the demands have kept on growing as well. And now, we're witnessing an absolute blow-up. This whole thing has exploded in Vucic's face. Now there are reportedly somewhere around 300,000 people protesting all over the place. In a nation of around 6.5 million people, that's a pretty big chunk. It's escalating too. It's getting worse. Police are now throwing flares at protesters, and protesters are throwing things back at them. Armored vehicles have been called in. The situation is ugly. These vehicles are rolling through the streets, trying to clear the way. You know people are getting hurt in the process. Police are firing tear gas and bringing out the batons. It's only a matter of time before we see reports of further injuries. Isn't this all such a shame? I mean, we all know what happens from here. What started out as something proper, an ethically sane position, is now going to devolve to a point where we see insane people join in. This is always the case with protests. You get psychologically twisted people who see their opportunity to vent their rage. They seize the moment, join in, and make things worse for everyone. The courage of the people who began all of this will get diluted down by the cowards with no agenda other than malice. Then the whole thing gets distorted in the reporting process. Hopefully, nobody forgets the courage, because it's the willingness of the strong people to go out there and face the consequences of a regime controlled in part or seriously in debt to China and Russia that forged this protest. China and Russia are nations who are in the habit of making problems disappear. Situations are less likely to be handled in a civilized manner with them. Getting hauled in and brought before a Chinese judiciary is similar to being brought before a panel of gangsters. They're just a heck of a lot more well-funded and organized. How much longer before the CCP steps in? I mean, maybe it will never happen. Maybe that's just hyperbolic speculation. But Vucic has gone this far. It seems like the only way to silence around 300,000 people is to take it to the next level. Introduce the military or give in to their demands. One or the other. Considering that Vucic is now in debt to China, resigning just doesn't seem like it's happening. Giving in to those demands is off the table. He's likely reached the point of no return. It's like flying out to a point in the ocean. Once you get halfway there, you can't turn around because you don't have enough fuel to get back. Turning around would be self-destructive. You're now committed, regardless of whether or not you like it. This is likely where Vucic is right now. He's gone on so long, things have escalated so much. I mean, so much is crumbling around him now that he can't go back. He committed himself to seeing it all the way through to the point of reflecting Chinese authoritarianism. And it's also disappointing. There was such a simple solution to this at the start. None of this had to happen. Simple human compassion was the answer. An apology. Shelling out some type of money or recompense to the families of the victims. I guess we'll see what happens next. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you got here, I really do appreciate it. As always, I appreciate the watch time. And if you dropped a comment or a like, thank you. See you in my next one.